Welcome to Watercolor with Janet VanEerden. This is Module 4, and we are talking about washes today. So, a wash is when you want to lay in, a flat wash is when you want to lay in a uniform color, say for a sky background or the side of a barn or the underpainting for a grassy field, and you're covering a large area with a color. The basic technique is you're going to lay down clear water in the spot that you want to have the wash. You don't want puddles of water. You just want completely wet. If you have puddles, you will have backwash and problems. For a wash, gravity is your best friend. So if you're painting, say, on a small postcard size piece of paper or on a larger piece of paper and it's not taped down, as you you can use gravity to help you. Now, you see people using easels, which then gravity is actually, you don't have to pick it up and move it, which is very nice. I often work flat on my table, and if there's a section that I want to um, pick up and use gravity, then I'll pick it up. So here's an example of a seabird in progress, and you can see it's very light, but the blue in the kind of the underpainting of the water is laid in there wet with water first, and the wash is not coming all the way down the paper. You can see I've left areas of white, especially there where you're close to the reflection, because that we're giving the idea that there's some sheen on the water and some reflecting going on. So it's a great area where you would practice washes. So let me switch to my document camera and we'll play with this a little bit. Okay. I normally hit pause so you don't have to watch that, but here we are. Okay. So couple of kinds of washes. There's a flat wash, which means that if I'm putting water here down to here, and I'm doing one color of blue, say. In this one, I I added some water here to show, excuse me, what would happen if you dropped in a brush full of water or brush full of pigment that had more water that excuse me. So this area here, I laid in a wash of the blue and I added a little bit of red underneath, washed out. This would be an example of a variegated wash. But then I dropped in some water here to show you how blooms or a puddle of water, or if you add a brush full of pigment that has more water than what you laid down already, the problems that can create if you don't want that. If you're looking to do clouds, that's a great thing. This is kind of a similar exercise, same thing. When you're doing a wash like this, if you're making clouds, you can use your brush to either soften those edges, or if you have a bloom started that you don't want, you can keep working the paint while it's wet with your brush. So let me move those aside. We'll just do a little section because this paper, this postcard size paper, will curl quite a bit. So for this one, I am putting down some clear water. And it's so dry here right now, so it will dry very quickly on my paper. I'm going to do this the length of the paper. I've been making, when I do test sheets and practice sheets like this, I love to put a scripture verse on it. And people really like those, so that's fun. But I'm mixing a little bit of purple with my green and blue, and then I'm going to take it And I'm going to start laying it right down there. Grab a little bit more and pick it up a little bit so gravity is helping me. And just keep drawing that down the paper. And if you're going to do a large area wash, you want to make sure that you have enough of the color you need ready. Sometimes I like the little idiosyncrasies that happen with this kind of thing. This actually is turning into more of a graded wash. It's darker at the top than it is at the bottom. Um, a variegated wash would be if we added some different colors in there. A flat wash is when you're doing this and you're trying to make the whole thing the same color, which we don't have any rules here. We can just play. But with a wash, like I was saying before, one of the artists that I watch, Thomas Shaw, he's wonderful, wonderful watercolor artist, and he works on an easel, and you can see when he does a wash how that the gravity just makes it just come down so beautifully and looks so good. So I do not usually work on an easel. I usually work flat. So I end up picking up my piece. And sometimes I tape it down to a piece of wood and work. Sometimes I don't. But you can get really beautiful, beautiful effects with lots of different kinds of washes. I don't think I'm going to do anything to that. I'm going to set that aside and let it dry. I'm going to come back over here to this guy that I was working on earlier, and I'm going to add, sometimes when I'm doing a boating scene, I repeat the sky color in the sea, and oftentimes I'll just do it all the way down the page. I didn't do it in this case, but so I can just finish the bottom of this right here. I'm going to bring it up a little bit into that pink so that I have some continuity there. And make myself some blue and bring that down. Now, when you're doing water scenes, a little bit of white showing is fine because that's showing the surface of the water. So the glare under this light makes it hard to see, but making this. So I've got a little bit of a wash there for my underside. And then when I do a seascape like this, while it's wet, I like to go in and drop some. This is probably a little bit too much. We'll see. We're just playing here. It's this, now this is going into a wet on wet technique where I'm dropping in some paint, letting some of that undercolor shine through or show through. And that's going to give you the idea of the top of the water. And understated, I like a lot of these things understated. I could go in and dig around at that a whole lot, but sometimes I like to just let the paint do what it does and not mess with it too much. I think I'm going to, let's just pick up a few things here. You can use your brush to do so much softening of edges, blending of these colors. We're just talking about not doing too much. So yeah, so that's a nice little start to a sunset, a sunset picture. And you get the idea. That's a wash. So have fun with washes, do some experimenting. And if you are going to be tuning in for when we do the Seabirds class, the wash technique, it's wet on wet. I'm doing this background here of the blue in a wash behind the bird, leaving some strategic white spots in there just so that you get the idea of the movement of the water. And then, of course, this sandy part up in there is also done wet and wet. Although you can see in some areas I had a harder line where it wasn't necessarily all wet, but that was by design because it's supposed to indicate some sandy bits of the beach that are showing through. So enjoy making washes, playing with them, experimenting with them. And if you'd like to post your work, I'd love to see it. Have a great night, and I'll see you in the next module.